Apple stock rallying after the U.S. and China agreed to reduce tariffs for 90 days.
Tonight on the final edition of America Decides. Stop me if you've heard this before. New tariff threats. President Trump warns Apple, the company, that it could face a 25% tariff.
Wait, did Apple really just get hit with a 60% tariff from Trump? That's not a rumor. That's a reckoning. For years, Apple stood as the symbol of American innovation. Now, it may be the first casualty of a new economic war. Trump's proposed 60% tariff wasn't just aimed at China, it hit everything, and Apple is feeling it first. Reports say production could shift faster out of China, and possibly out of America altogether. If that happens, it won't just be a tech headline, it'll be a national shockwave. Tens of thousands of American jobs at risk, small towns already hanging by a thread, may collapse. And you'll pay more for your next iPhone, your next laptop, maybe even lose your job, depending on where you live. This isn't just about Apple, it's about how fragile our economy really is, how fast global companies can walk away, and how the people left behind, you, are the ones who pay. So we ask the question, was this 60% tariff a bold move to protect American workers? Or the final push that sends companies running? If even Apple can't stay, who's next? Stay with us, because what you're about to see could change the way you think about politics, business, and your own future. Hit like, hit subscribe, and let's get into it. What if a single policy could shake the entire global supply chain? Because that's exactly what Trump's proposed 60% tariff just did. Announced as part of his bold America First economic revival plan, this tariff isn't just aimed at China. It could sweep across the board, hitting imports from countries like Vietnam, Mexico, maybe even Europe. And that includes Apple. The tech giant depends on parts from more than 40 countries. Chips from Taiwan, aluminum from Canada, screens from South Korea, and yes, assembly in China. So what happens when the price of all those things goes up by 60%? You feel it, not in stock charts, but in your wallet. Remember 2018, 2019, when earlier tariffs sparked a 10 to 15 jump in tech prices? Your MacBook suddenly cost $200 more. TVs got pricier, and iPhone prices quietly crept up. Now, imagine that happening again, but worse. Not 10%, not 2060. We're not talking about a premium product anymore. We're talking about an $1,500 iPhone becoming a real possibility. And it won't just be your next upgrade that hurts. It's the ripple effect. Small businesses that can't afford to upgrade devices. School districts stuck with old tech. Families putting off repairs or going without. And then there's the jobs. Because when Apple pays more for parts and sells fewer devices, guess what they cut? Factories, contractors, workers, many of them in America. Which leads to the question millions are quietly asking, is this tariff protecting American jobs or destroying the system they depend on? Some say it's about restoring independence. Others call it economic suicide. And still others believe it's just the beginning. Because if Apple is hurting, what will Apple do? Stay and suffer? Or find a way out? Let's talk about Apple's next move, and why some insiders believe the China exit is just the start. Coming up next. Let's be clear, Apple has not officially announced it's leaving America. But if you listen closely, the tone has changed, and it's impossible to ignore. In a recent interview, CEO Tim Cook didn't say the word exit, but he did say this: we need to ensure long-term competitiveness and diversify where it makes sense. Now, what does that mean? Long-term competitiveness? Diversify? Those aren't just buzzwords. That's corporate code for, we're not going to sit around and get steamrolled. Look at the facts. Apple has already been shifting supply chains out of China. India is ramping up iPhone assembly. Vietnam is now handling AirPods and MacBook components. Europe is being positioned as a possible administrative base. And while the company still calls Cupertino home, how long can they afford to stay tied to US policy if that policy becomes a liability? And here's where it hits hard for regular Americans. Because if Apple leaves, Even partially, it's not just a business decision. It's a message to millions of workers, to small towns, to American consumers. You can build your career around a company for 50, 20, even 30 years. But the moment the numbers change, they're gone. That's how a lot of people feel right now. Abandoned. Scroll through the comments on any news story like this, and you'll see it. People who say, I gave my life to this company. They promised jobs, stability, and now they're taking it all overseas. So, what is Apple really doing here? Are they just sending a signal, hoping to pressure Washington into pulling back? Or are they quietly laying the groundwork to leave? Because once the foundation is set in India, Vietnam, Germany, relocation doesn't seem so radical anymore. And if Apple takes the leap, you can bet others will follow. What does that mean for the towns, the workers, the contractors left behind? That's what we'll unpack next. Let's stop talking numbers for a second and talk about people. Because behind every decision Apple makes, behind every tariff Trump signs, there are real lives and real consequences. Take a drive through the American Midwest. You'll find small towns built around a single factory. That factory supplies Apple with components, screws, brackets, packaging, thermal paste, sensors, and when Apple cuts one contract, the entire town feels it. We're not talking about Wall Street portfolios here. We're talking about mothers, veterans, teenagers saving for college, all working jobs tied to Apple's global supply chain. Now imagine what happens if Apple accelerates its China exit and starts pulling more operations away from the US too. One shift in Apple's sourcing strategy can send shockwaves across thousands of American zip codes. That's not speculation. That's already happened before. During earlier tariff battles, some US suppliers were dropped because they couldn't compete with offshore pricing. And with a 60% tariff now looming, more companies could vanish overnight. And then comes the emotional blow. You've worked 20 years building components for Apple. You've trained others. You've paid off a house. And suddenly, one email changes everything. People are angry, and they should be. Go read the comments. They're not political rants. They're cries for help. My town depends on Apple. We trusted these companies to stay. Now they're gone, and we're left behind. Is that what economic patriotism was supposed to look like? Were tariffs meant to protect American jobs or push companies away? Because here's the irony no one wants to admit. In trying to bring jobs back, we may be creating conditions that drive companies out. This isn't just about business. This is about identity. Apple has long been an emblem of American innovation. But if it walks away, what message does that send to the rest of the world? That America can't hold on to its own creations. That we no longer understand how to compete, only how to punish. We're approaching a breaking point. And the consequences? They won't just be economic. They'll be political, legal, and deeply personal. Let's talk about that next. What happens when one of America's most powerful companies feels cornered? We may be about to find out, according to multiple reports, still unconfirmed. Apple could be exploring legal action. Yes, a lawsuit against the very system it once thrived in. Behind closed doors, sources suggest Apple's top legal team is assessing whether Trump's 60% tariff could be challenged on the grounds of excessive economic damage or unequal treatment compared to other industries. If true, this could trigger a legal earthquake, not just for Apple, but for the balance of power between government and corporations. Think about the precedent. A company, once considered a model of American capitalism, now potentially suing the American government. That's not just a headline. That's a paradigm shift. And it's fueling a broader question across boardrooms nationwide. If Apple can't survive these policies, who can? Already, smaller tech companies are looking at contingency plans. Auto firms, nervous, pharmaceutical giants, watching closely. This isn't just a trade dispute anymore. It's a domino effect. And we're only seeing the first tiles fall. And it doesn't stop at the corporate level. On Capitol Hill, battle lines are being drawn. Some lawmakers say, good. About time we brought tech back under control. Others warn, We're pushing away the very companies that built the modern economy. And the voters? Confused, frustrated, torn. Because no matter where you stand politically, you still want your job safe, your retirement plan protected, and your next iPhone not to cost $2,000. So what happens next? Will Trump double down, defend the tariffs as essential to American sovereignty? Or will political pressure from industry, voters, and yes, potential lawsuits force a course correction? No one knows. But one thing is certain. What started as a 60 tariff has now become a national reckoning. Apple's decision could become a blueprint or a breaking point. And the aftershocks, they're just beginning to hit. So the final question becomes, where do we go from here? That's what we'll close with next. So, what does it all mean? This isn't just about Apple or about Trump's 60% tariff. It's about something much bigger. It's about a system, an economy, sitting on a tipping point. We're watching what happens when global supply chains collide with national policy, when the world's most powerful companies say, we love America, but we might have to leave it. And let's be honest, if Apple, the crown jewel of American tech, feels this pressure, what chance do smaller businesses have? The ripple effects are real. China exit? Already in motion. American jobs? Hanging by a thread in many towns across the country. And this trade war? It's no longer happening on the news. It's happening in paychecks, product prices, and people's lives. We've heard your voices in the comments. You feel abandoned. You feel like nobody's listening. You gave decades to companies, and now you're left asking, what happened to loyalty? Here's the hard truth. If we lose our companies, we lose more than just jobs. We lose trust. We lose momentum. We lose something deeply American, the belief that hard work will be rewarded. So now, it's up to us. Stay informed. Don't get distracted by headlines. Follow the money. Vote with your dollars. Vote with your voice. Support businesses that support you and keep asking the hard questions. Was the 60% tariff the right move or the wrong war? Will Apple's China exit become a one-off or a signal that the system is breaking? We don't claim to have all the answers, but together we can demand better ones. If this video gave you something to think about, like, comment, share, tell your friends, tell your community, because the next company to leave might be one your family depends on. Stay sharp, stay united. We'll see you in the next one.